My guest for the morning, Kobie Champong, is the boss for the GIDA program, and we say that's Ghana Youth and Entrepreneurial Development Agency. Thanks for joining me this morning, sir.
Thank you, but our name has changed. It's Youth Employment Agency.
The Youth Employment Agency. Kobie Champong, thanks for joining me, sir.
Right.
Member of Parliament for Kapim South is Osebun Suama Obiamwa, is popularly known. Thanks for joining me, sir.
Thank you.
And we'll have to start with the subject of Woyome, and just around the close of the evening on Monday, well, the media was carrying reports that he had written a number of letters, or if, it depends on how we want to call it, petition, so to speak, not only to the presidency but also to the Attorney General and other media houses as copied, that, well, he or she might have benefited from $1 million of the so-called judgment debt payment that was made to him. And following that, we had the Attorney General also speaking to a number of the press houses and making it known clearly that her firm had represented a client, Roy Smith, and it was just a debt that was owed Roy Smith that was collected on behalf of a client. Ray Smith. And so that was put into perspective. But the issues still seem to be ongoing, and we've had representatives of Woyome also talking on the subject across the media space. Now, I have to ask you what you make of this whole incident in the first place.
Well, thank you and good morning to your cherished viewers. We understand there's a letter dated 13th March.
Definitely.
But became public yesterday. And unfortunately, some of the headlines appear not to be very accurate. Because if you say that Mr. Woyome is saying that he gave Attorney General $1 million, I don't think if you listen to what is read on air and listen to the Attorney General, there's anywhere that Mr. Woyome has said categorically that he gave Attorney General $1 million. So probably it's for your journalistic
mischief, you could call it?
No, I will not go that far. Probably they want to sell their newspapers, but some of the headlines are saying that. But if you listen to the story, Mr. Woyome has been served with the papers for appeal by the Attorney General on behalf of the state. Mr. Woyome has also written a personal letter to the Attorney General that he thinks that the Attorney General should not be involved in the matter at this stage because her firm represented a company, Austro Invest, and that if the company was paid any amount from what he, Mr. Woyome, received, then she more or less is an interested party, so she should recuse herself from this matter. That is Mr. Woyome's version. The Attorney General is saying that she doesn't see why there should be any conflict of interest in what she's doing. And it's true that her firm indeed represented a client who sued Mr. Woyome, and out of the $1 million which Mr. Woyome paid, it was supposed to be for the client, not for them. And as far as she's concerned, she has a confidence of the president and by inference of the state to pursue this matter. So she's going to pursue it. So it's become a banter more or less between the Attorney General and Mr. Woyome. That's how I want us to see it. As to whether out of conflict of interest she should continue with this matter, it's something that we can still
explore.
Discuss. But sometimes we hear on air and see in the papers that $1 million went to her, and it clouds the whole argument.
Very misleading in your...
Misleading, because otherwise it's very interesting and it brings out governance issues. Can we trace anything that will give the impression that there's conflict of interest and that she has heard, maybe wants to see Woyomi jailed at all costs because she represented, or her firm represented, a client who sued Woyomi. If that's how you want to stretch it. But beyond that, it's good that we are still talking about judgment debts. It's because on 12 March, the court ruled. And once the court ruled, if it had gone anyway, we would still have discussed it. Whether he had been jailed or he had been freed, we would still have discussed it. But the larger picture is that the president set up a judgment debt commission because the payment of judgment debts was becoming too much, to the extent that by 2011 we had paid over 600 million Ghana cedis as judgment debts. And that's what led to the president set up that commission. Now what has come out of that commission? If they finish their work, when are they going to submit their report to the president? If they submitted, when is the president going to issue a white paper? If the president is not interested in issuing a white paper, the Constitution says we should publish the full report for us to know, and for us to know the steps we should be taking to prevent some of these things. That would be the larger picture. Otherwise, if you're not careful, we dwell on 51 million.
And then we tend to cloud the whole discussion.
600 million or more is at stake.
We'll discuss the subject of the commission itself, the outcome, and what it also implies on the whole commitment of government or the posture of government to retrieve all those perceived illegal monies that may have been paid to individuals.
Which is why the report should come early enough, so that Attorney General will not only have a job of retrieving 51 million, she may end up having a job of retrieving more.
Of money,
And then we will all interrogate and see whether that whole institution is ready for this kind of fight, and whether they are really prosecuting the agenda to retrieve that kind of money.
But Mr. Champo, what do you make of this whole posture now from Mr. Woyomi?
I think it's completely uncalled for. I mean, if you look at the evidence he adduced in his own petition, there's nowhere...
And even attached paying slips.
Exactly. There's nowhere that it is stated that she paid Marietta upon any money. On the contrary, the Attorney General, who was then in private practice, represented a client against whom Woyomi had borrowed some money for some business. And she only filed a claim on behalf of her client, retrieving that money, and you paid her client. So how on earth do you turn around and say you paid her 1 million cedis? I mean, $1 million. You know, I have a fundamental problem with the way some of these things go. Because look, the facts basically establish that there was no such case of Woyomi paying the Attorney General any money. It's not personal money. And if she's talking about conflict of, where does the conflict of interest arise? When she was on the other side, the Attorney General has never worked for Woyomi. So there's no conflict of interest. She's always on the other side. And even in public office, she's still on the other side. So where does the conflict of interest arise? My understanding of conflict of interest is simply when you have access to a case, you represent a particular person, and then you switch sides. Even then, there's a threshold that can be determined. And in any case, if Woyomi was serious about this issue, why didn't he petition the General Legal Counsel that can make a determination clearly on whether there was a conflict of interest?
But another dimension is that governments, and following the ruling on the 12th of March, governments seem to have adopted a certain posture that despite the outcome of the ruling, we will still go after you in an appeal. And so it is just a strategy to make sure you tarnish the various protagonists in this whole drama, to make sure that you discredit them in such a way that...
You discredit them in the court of public opinion, but in the law court, it is the evidence that will be adduced that will make the case. So, for me, we've passed that threshold of discrediting them in the court of public opinion. In any case, this case doesn't even pass muster as far as the evidence adduced is concerned, making the claim that you gave the person 1 million. Your own evidence that you supported your petition doesn't support that claim. So where are we going with this? I have a problem, because when you begin to do this, and the journalists, please, I am sure they read the petition and they had access to the supporting documents. Don't put these screaming headlines, because you injure people's reputation inadvertently. I give AG 1 million, says Woyomi. Come on, you probably read the full petition and probably had access to the documents that supported it. Ray Smith is the client.
So you are saying we should have interpreted whatever was the
Exactly.
whatever was the content of the petition.
Exactly. That is what it is based on. That you do a headline, but just don't put a screaming headline, because there are people who would never buy the paper to read. We only cite the headline and come to a finality that yes, they've given the Attorney General 1 million. But the supporting documents do not support that.
You've taught journalism before,
Exactly.
but as far as we're concerned, if let's say Woyome as a source was being quoted, it wouldn't have been wrong if the headline screamed, as you say, "I gave AG 1 million," because if you read his petition, he is just implying that, well, I paid $1 million in many respects. And as far as he is concerned,
Roland, it is
coming
still
from Woyome,
fundamentally wrong. Journalism
ethically, yes, it may be wrong.
Yes, but
for the tabloids, sometimes they go away with some
tabloids
honesty.
still are ethically bound.
Sure.
That's it.
We all agree there.
Yes, you are ethically bound. It's the ethics that make the profession worthwhile practicing. Lawyers are ethically bound, and they will not stray. Exactly. That's why when a lawyer strays, you take them to the highest body, the General Legal Counsel, to apply a sanction. You understand? So we shouldn't have shortcuts in this business. We should not have shortcuts, because you are dealing with a population that might not even get opportunity. A substantial part of the population would never have the access to read a newspaper. You're only looking at the headline. Have you watched the newsstands where people go and stand and read only headlines?
And they make conclusions.
And make conclusions.
Yeah.
And he will carry it on.
And those are good enough for them to make projections and form their own conclusions as well.
Now, every morning you see them at the newsstands.
Exactly.
We'll discuss the subject of the Judgment Debt Commission and the whole posture of government, so to speak. But if you peruse Justice Ajit Nassam's ruling, you get the feeling that perhaps he may be screaming for having or not having the prosecution put before him certain key witnesses, and well, let's mention the former Attorney General Bertie Modi-Drusu, his deputy, and one or two other persons. Now, coming from that very onset in itself, would you say perhaps we may also maybe riding on that fact and say, well, I feel my closeness to the government in power or the party in power, and the whole allusion that there may have been some perceived collusion of whether it's the office itself or some key personalities, tends to also embroil certain key personalities in all this. And so him trying to make this a very attribution to the current AG could be part of the strategy in itself.
Well, the High Court, after almost 3 years, gave its ruling. And in the opinion of the judge, a case had not been made against Mr. Woyome. The Attorney General and the department, they don't agree. They are saying that they're going to appeal. According to the judge, if certain key witnesses had been brought before him, he could have unraveled this whole thing. His submission is that, or his judgment is that, you said the individual had defrauded the nation by false pretenses. You said the individual had caused financial loss to the state. But if you trace the story, at one point, they seem to have agreed that the state owed him. You went through settlement and everything. You even had court judgment. And then you came back that it was a mistake. So you wanted the money retrieved. And then later on, you said that the state had even been defrauded. So apart from retrieving the money, the person should also be charged and jailed. According to the judge, he has not been convinced. He thought that certain persons should have appeared before him, especially those who started and agreed that Mr. Woyome was owed a certain amount, and those who had changed their position now. It's his prerogative. He was in charge of the case, and he felt that he had not been convinced. Now, the Attorney General is saying that they thought they had adduced sufficient evidence to be able to get conviction against Mr. Woyome. So you are going upstairs. They want 3 judges to look at it instead of the 1 judge, which is also their right. It's for Mr. Woyomi to also marshal his defense and face them upstairs. As to what he wants to throw in, if that is his style, so long as it's legitimate, probably that is his style. But the most important thing is that if the state has filed an appeal, then you are also bound to go and defend yourself again. Otherwise, you end up where you're not supposed to be or where you don't wish to be. But the other side of it is that the highest court of the land, the Supreme Court, has ruled that he should be made to pay back the 51 million. So it's for the AG and all the institutions to make sure that they retrieve the 51 million. That matter, more or less, has been concluded in the sense that the highest court of the land, it even went for review. And there was even the issue of why the Supreme Court did not even impose interest on the amount. But that aspect has ended. So it's the criminal aspect which is now moving upstairs because the state, represented by the Attorney General, is not happy with what the judge said. So that is how I see it. That's how it should be. And even though from the judgment you may say that most Ghanaians didn't appear happy, at least those I heard, read, listened to,
make commentary on the subject.
Commentary. Most Ghanaians are not happy. But we should also be careful that we don't end up also zeroing on an individual who also has his freedom. The person has every right to defend himself in court, and if the court frees him, that is how our democracy works. This is not maybe public tribunal, 3 days you are sentenced, and then everybody is not happy. Or the person sentenced will say that he didn't have justice. He's had his day in court. As far as the High Court is concerned, he should go scot-free. The state is not happy, the state has gone upstairs. If the state is able to state his case, then he will not be a free man anymore. What I am cautioning against is we don't end up zeroing on any individual. But it can happen to anybody.
It can, eh?
It can.
Everybody can claim judgment there.
Not
certain
everybody claiming judgment there.
like
You can also be charged. And if you have your day in court, and the court agrees with you that you should go scot-free, we should be careful the public then doesn't try you. And the public insisting that even if you are free, no, you should be jailed.
Because Mr. Jamba, I was just about to come to this. How do we, and I believe this has been spearheaded by the media largely, that issues, whether they are tainted politically or not, whether they're sensitive or not, or at the heart of governance or not, are being spearheaded by the media to be tried in the public domain or public discourse and affect people's integrity, personality, and perhaps even their worth in terms of what they may have done as far as their lives are concerned. How do we cure this very mischief that is being perpetrated by the media and the key personalities or proponents that there are as far as our political landscape is concerned?
Well, that is why I raised the issue of ethics. I mean, you said
it is all in our court.
Exactly. No. Let me make the point. You see, when you ignore the ethics of a profession and you want to do the shortcut way, you throw a lot of garbage in the streets and you have to collect it again. What am I saying? Look, we've had cases that are always started and everybody assumes the person is guilty. People will not take their time and read the brief, get an understanding of what exactly the case is. But they conclude, Mr. Osayaje was proclaimed guilty, the court set him free. Kojo Mpiani was proclaimed guilty, the court set him free. Raku Bebrel, the court set him free. Asamoah Gbartin, the court set him free. There are so many other cases, you understand? But from the onset, whatever is put out there is that you are all guilty. The issue is we have a judicial system that will take you through the process. Why don't you go through the process and let that guilty be established? But we just jump to the conclusion and lead the population on. So when at the end of the case something else comes up, everybody is disappointed because from the onset we thought this was what the result should be. Most often than not, it doesn't happen like that. There's a similar setting. The only way to cure it is for our journalists to be very circumspect. You see, legal cases are legal cases. They are not political cases. They are legal. The arguments that will be adduced in court are legal arguments supported by the evidence and facts surrounding it. That's all there is to it.
And there's no other way around.
There's no other way around it. And therefore, if you take it from a political lens, you're getting it wrong. Take it from the legal lens adduced by the evidence produced in court. And that is it. And there are stages. You could start from the circuit court, magistrate court, come to circuit court, high court, appeal court, Supreme Court. There are levels that you have to go, all in the process of getting justice. What we forget is that it is time consuming, but the facts will not change. The facts that will be adduced will go through one court to the other, to the other, to the other, and people have their rights. Just like the Attorney General feels you have a right to appeal, Uyomo feels he has been acquitted. But then the process hasn't been exhausted. It's continuing. So we have to sometimes be patient and have an understanding of exactly what is going on so we can cure all this mischief that happens when cases are being heard.
But we should also not overlook the fact that it's not only in Ghana, everywhere. Even in the developed society.
It happens, yeah.
Sometimes they are not happy about the outcome of court cases.
And they become subjects of public commentary?
Commentary. To say that some people even become violent. But we should also not forget about the fact that some cases also look political. Because if you are Attorney General and we expect you to do your best to retrieve money for us, if it doesn't happen that way, people can also read politics into it. That are you best representing us? Is the state doing enough to make sure that what the public perceives as a wrong thing is righted? So all those issues.
From where Mr. Acheampong is coming from, you, the politicians, are also key sources of personalities in all this. I mean, really, we thrive as far as the media's content is concerned on the political subjects or issues. Yeah. And you make sometimes in court some of the most outrageous comments as far as, and those may be good sound bites and
for the media.
Yes, for the media, or certainly for the media, so to speak. I remember Woyome was a huge political subject towards the last 2 quarters of 2012 and even prior to the election. So you also major contributors as well.
Well, probably you say that it became a political issue because in the heat of the politics, one side is saying that the people you have put in charge of the affairs are not keeping our money well, to the extent that anybody comes that is owed by the state and we don't do due diligence, then we pay. It becomes a political issue. Because the person that you put there as Attorney General, if he or the person is the chief legal advisor, then we expect that as our lawyer, he gives us the best advice and also protects us legally. So whether you like it or not, it will become a political issue. That if I were there, I would have done better. Or if you put me in government, some of these things will stop. That one, you cannot stop it, because if the shoe was on the other foot, the same thing would have happened. Assuming that NPP was in office and these things had happened, I don't think the NDC would have kept quiet.
They would have also made political capital.
They would have, except that in making political capital, some people overstretch it, some people go out of bounds, some people make it so ridiculous, and sometimes you lose the essence of it. But it's a major issue that if within 3 years we've paid over 600 million, could we have done better?
I want us to talk about the Judgment Debt Commission and its outcome and thereof. But how is the influence of the former Attorney General Martin Amido in all this that may have also consolidated public opinion to this very stage on the Woyome issue?
Well, to have an Attorney General saying that
you mean a former Attorney
General saying that he thinks a lot of things have gone wrong within his government and that he should be given the free hand to even go after.
That was more of an opinion than reality.
After certain person, and he coming out to say that he's being threatened and intimidated because he wants to do the right thing as Attorney General. And then subsequently he's been fired because he said that he's been insubordinate. He has shown disrespect to the president. It will be news. That's obviously news. And then beyond that, he on his own, as a private person, went on to pursue some of these things. And the Supreme Court agreed with him that looking at the precedents, the person never had any contract, apart from the fact that the governor of the day said that they could not pursue it. It also did not end up in Parliament as the Constitution requires. So we have ruled on this matter several times, and this is the same matter. So he secured what he wanted. You understand? So obviously it will generate the kind of heat and news and everything that will be front page. And that one you don't begrudge the media commentators, the politicians, and the media itself.
Who take advantage of it to also
Not
make
necessarily
extra.
advantage, it's news. So you should, except as I said, if you skew it so much, then you'll be cloud the whole thing. Except that it's a major thing. And out of this is what the whole commission came about. And the commission was asked to trace as far back as they could, not only this era, even the previous government and various governments. Because you see that if somebody comes to claim for Akosombo settlement in the 60s, the question then is that how come the state has not sat down and paid this kind of compensation and it's dragged on to this level and we are now paying? Or have we paid and we want to pay again? They all become issues. That's why the commission was set up. Everybody should go and talk about it. Indeed, the commission even met on this matter. They brought in people to come and tell their side of it. That's how it's so important that we get the report of the commission and see the kind of work.
Do we get the report, or you mean the white paper?
The Constitution expects that you publish the report and also the white paper, even though the white paper is the most important thing, because the white paper is what the government accepts and what we should pursue. But others who want to see the report and see that whether the government has not been selective in what it accepts and doesn't accept. So probably you, the media, should find out from the commissioner.
Why? Why we have all these delays?
No, if he's finished his work, has he submitted a report? If he says, I've finished my work, I've submitted my report, then he has nothing to answer again. Then goes to the presidency. Has the report been submitted? What are you doing about it? And maybe they will say that I've set up a small committee to look at the report and advise so that I can also bring out the white paper. Then everybody will know that, I mean, we're making progress and we're taking the right steps as far as the Constitution is concerned.
The commission coming into being has always been said by not only government but even the president as supposed to be the commitment to fight corruption or even retrieve untoward or even monies that have been paid to people untowardly. At what point do we say a white paper or a report needs to be published as quickly as possible? Then it makes it more credible and very much authentic, and also in the public interest.
Well, see, it's not about the point at which you publish a report. It's about the judgment that commissioner, the sole commissioner, going through the process of issuing a final report that will be presented to government, and then government sitting down with the report and saying, okay, in view of what he has adduced in the report, these are the levels of actions we want to take. That is what brings the credibility to it. Because, look, without a report, you can't issue a white paper. But with a report, you'll be able to issue a white paper and chart the way forward. That, okay, based on what is in the report, this is what we are going to do, A, B, C, D, in the fight against corruption or in the fight against retrieving money that were illegally acquired. That is the issue. Until we do that, we can only, comment about it. But you raised an earlier point about politicians and their role in some of these news items. I always use Bill Clinton as a typical example. In the House of Representatives, when he had the issue with Monica Lewinsky, he was impeached. In the House of Representatives, purely political. Yeah. There are Republicans, moral, conservative, thought as a president he should not have any dealing with the lady, impeached him. In the Senate, he was acquitted. And therefore, he didn't resign as president. You understand? And it's all politics. But they looked at it from different lenses. You understand? So, you cannot blame the politician all the time. Yeah, the politician will say what they will have to say for your soundbite. But you, the journalist,
have to exercise
the circumspection. Because what you write is what people will read. What a politician says is transient. It just goes. He said it. You record him. You understand? It's transient.
You use your discretion to.
What you write, this newspaper will be there forever. And in this electronic age, you can go 100 years and you can still go back and pull it. So it's very important that we do the right things. I'm always for doing the right, because I've seen how people's lives have been torn apart just by what people write. And at the end of the day, you realize that what they wrote is not right.
It's trash in many respects.
No, you want to put words in his mouth.
No, he's not conquered. So.
The other aspect of it is our system. For instance, if the Attorney General is not happy about this headline, maybe her first reaction will be to write the rejoinder and expect that the rejoinder will be published
The way it was
same way, same representative, well, same representation or prominence.
Prominently. If she's not satisfied,
and it won't be given, I'm sure.
if she's not satisfied, she goes to the Media Commission.
Whole number
Now,
of layers.
the Media Commission may look into the matter, sometimes it drags, and then may demand that publish a rejoinder. But because we don't have any regime covering this, the editor may decide not to even publish it, which will then mean that the Attorney General will have no option but go to court to clear her name. You understand? But I understand even for the Media Commission, they want to bring an instrument to Parliament.
Preventing people from going to court.
That would make some of these things so mandatory that if you don't...
You definitely will have to go to the Media Commission, through the Media Commission.
No, apart from that, you definitely have to publish a rejoinder if the complaints sent to them show that indeed your story did not merit that kind of publication.
Was not representative.
Yeah. So it's something that we have to quicken the pace, otherwise the media, instead of protecting us, become tyrants.
Okay, let's wind up on this issue of Woyobe. Now, the Attorney General will be going for an appeal.
Yes.
And if the outcome is the same as what we witnessed at the High Court, what happens?
No, she's told us that she's appealing. So it's obvious that she will appeal.
Well, sure.
Yes. And then we
if preemptively the outcome is not as...
And we heard the Deputy Attorney General saying that we are ready. If the Court of Appeal doesn't agree with the state may decide that that is the end of the road. Yeah. If still they want to go up,
can go up to the Supreme Court.
Go up to Supreme Court. And say that we still think that the state has been defrauded, so execute what should be executed. And that goes on. But if after round 2 you don't make it and you still think you have a case, the law allows it. So that is how it should be, except that the abuse of justice
grind slowly.
Okay. Mr. Champon, do we think, because of all the speculation about Mr. Woyome being a financier of the NDC, and as a result of that, the government may be complicit in some respects in the payment of the judgment, etc. So government wants to put on this very posture of being very much committed to collecting the debt, but also that very criminal charge still sticking on the gentleman.
Well, you know, people have made this allusion as Woyome being a financier and
it's
all
not true.
But nobody has brought any concrete evidence saying that proves that he's a financier.
But you can tell us whether it's true or not.
I have never seen him finance anything. So for me, all these things, that's why I keep on saying, we don't go behind the story to do a proper analysis of the terms we use.
So he's never a financier?
Listen, that's not the issue I'm dealing with. My point is, if you say he's a financier, there should be some evidence supporting that assertion. But it's been classified, financier, and we use it. Look, government will never be complicit when it comes to matters that involve taxpayer money. Because as government, you are supposed to protect the public purse. And if somebody has taken money illegally, you must do everything to recover that money. So government will never be complicit in this matter. So this whole issue of him being a financier and therefore government is trying to change course, or there is a non-starter. Because I wouldn't think government would do all it is doing now to pursue this case, to the point that a former Attorney General has gone to court to, civilly get an interpretation that Mr. Woyome is liable and that has to refund the money. You know, all these things play into the fact that we need to have an understanding that when it comes to certain things, there is no way you can close your eye and say, I'm just avoiding it. This is taxpayer money. You see, when you don't do this, you set a precedent for others to follow. And for me, that is what is always critical in governing. Don't set bad precedents for others to come and follow and use that as a basis to do other things. Government will go for the money once the Supreme Court has ruled They will set in, I think the process has already been started. They went to court to get guidelines on how to proceed. And once the court once the court gives them direction, they'll go for the money. So this is, I mean, not a case of
they'll collect the money.
Yes,
the question,
51 million.
The larger picture about the question you asked is whether the chief legal advisor to the president should also be the chief prosecutor. It's been a major issue, and because
people are calling for the separation.
Because of the way the constitution has been framed, you cannot separate the Minister of Justice from the Attorney General. That leads us to the issue of amending the constitution so that
we create an independent.
You have an independent prosecutor. As much as possible, the person is perceived to be so independent that this issue of whether, because it's government people, you don't want to touch them, is when they go into a position that the government which comes in starts.
Is that true? You've been in government before, is that true?
That's the perception that it brings out. That if you say you are not corrupt, prosecute your own people as much as you can. And then if they're able to go scot-free, the court that has freed them. Otherwise, that perception lingers.
But where the opposition also insinuates that, well, once we come to this very outcome, in the first step, as we've witnessed from the 12, that it also shows that government may not have presented
for the
enough evidence.
The opposition always wants to take advantage of the situation to say that
but
you have not done. No, you have not done enough because it's your own.
But that's not right.
No, if there's that perception and that evidence,
it's not wrong to bring.
No, they want to take advantage of it. We should not create the impression that when it comes to politics, people are angels or saints, or when they perceive something.
But you should be ethical as well. What's true? Truth should be truth.
But if I say that,
what's wrong is wrong.
If I say that issues have come up, from all these issues, some persons have cases to answer.
Perceived.
Some persons have cases to answer, but let's say it is perceived. But if they are asked to go home, then you say, you are protecting them because they are your kind. But don't forget that in this country, Shraj came out with a report indicting certain ministers. But government white paper said that they had no case to answer. In that case, you have those on the other side saying, hey, you are protecting your kind. Whereas if you had an independent person pursuing all this, let everybody have his day in court. Let's see whether the person indeed has a case to answer or there's nothing to answer.
Okay.
I think it's my phone.